Welcome back to Bobble Pod. I am Manny Singh, CEO of Bobble Digital. I haven't really introduced myself that way in a very, very long time. I'll just get straight into it, assuming everybody knows who I am. Hopefully by now you do. Before I start, don't forget to like, follow, subscribe our podcast on audio and YouTube. If you're on YouTube, hello YouTube. And don't forget to use the hashtag Mr. Bobble. I haven't added that one in for a couple of episodes either. Hopefully by the time we get to a few more episodes, we've got some new merch coming out, which is Mr. Bobble. So we're really going to push that and we'll see how it goes. But this episode 20, season 3, 20 episodes we've done. I can't believe I recorded 20 episodes. And it'll eventually get to a point where from next year, we're just going to be doing just weekly episodes and there's just be topics. It's not going to be episode numbers. It's just going to be the topic of the episode. This one, we'll talk about what next for SEO. Search engine optimization, for anyone who doesn't know what the SEO acronym stands for. And it's quite an interesting one because there was a bigger Google update, and I talked about this in a previous podcast back in May. So there was an update in May. It was a core update, which means big update. Like if you read the actual document, supporting document, it's like hundreds of pages. It came out on the 25th of May. 25th of May, yes, 25th of May, 2022. 6 months after a previous wave of changes. And it took around about 1 to 2 weeks of full implementation. So the biggest thing that was impacted by that update was it affected a lot of SERPs, search engine result pages, positions. Our SERPs and positioning has since that point been very, very erratic. Some days we're position 1, top 3, off page 1, then the next day we're back on page 1. And it's not because our website's bad. We pass our core web vitals. We do everything. We practice what we preach. It's just this update that's still taking a lot of time to embed. And it's kind of frustrating more than anything else. And anyone out there who has an SEO role or works in SEO will understand how annoying updates from Google are. But what is next? So there'll be another update coming out at the end of the year, which will be the second part of the update to the core update that happened in May. And only Google knows what's going to be in that one. But we'll see. And as always, we will do our due diligence, our research, and we'll write a blog about it and we'll share it for everyone to understand what they need to do and what they need to do next and how to overcome any issues they're having. So SEO, what is next? I got to start here. Research has shown that of all the US searches, 2.8% of people click on paid advertisements. That's very low. With less people visiting advertised sites, it's clear that organic, specifically in the US, now appear more credible to the public than actual ads. And a lot of that got to do with, I think, the change from text ads to responsive search ads. I wouldn't be surprised if text ads come back. But I think Google, and once they made a decision, they won't go back on it. They'll probably release a new product that is basically text ads, but in a different way, or add an extra feature to responsive search ads that allows you to do kind of a similar format to what you're doing before. But there's a lot changing, a lot happening with SEO, and that's US. And obviously, we have figures for the whole of the world. Where actually, Google accounts for 92% of all global searches. 92%. I talked about this where I talked about Google as a mountain. It can't be moved, but it can be climbed quite a few episodes ago. And there's a lot of areas that you need to really, really focus on in terms of what's next. And the first thing is localization of SEO. So one key change made towards SEO includes its localization. More consumers are buying locally, and they should. I support that. It's evident of the push towards more localized search results because more generic search results are harder to rank for that position. It's harder to rank for PPC agency than it is for PPC agency leads because it's more localized. Through Google boosting of interaction between search and local businesses, more country-specific content presented within the last few months. This specifically allows users This allows specific user results to be found through search engines presenting individual sites that are serving them more locally rather than non-specified areas. And that comes back to what I talked about in the last episode of PM campaigns in terms of presence or intent versus presence only. So you want to make sure it's presence only because they will expand out. But the SEO side of things is doing something different. It's focusing more on localized really than anything else. So it's granting more time to be spent on generating more quality organic, reviews and website quality, such as going through Google My Business, considering sites that tighten down their target audience geographically. It basically means you've got to compartmentalize parts of your site and your services, what you do, which is harder. So, for example, if you're a law firm operating in 10 cities, you're going to need 10 separate Google My Business accounts to optimize the localized elements on there. And you're going to need local optimized content and keywords for, let's say, if you're a law firm in Leeds compared down to London or York or wherever it is. So it just means more work, more SEO work, more breakdown and more authentication of content. It means more reviews. Be using platforms like Google Reviews and Trustpilot to get localized reviews for that particular location, which again just means more work. It means more optimization, more processes that need to be put in, and businesses don't want that. The next is passage indexing. Addition to SEO and the incorporation of passage indexing, the use of what we call natural language processing alongside index web pages, which allows Google to understand more specific passages within the website copy. Example, when searching a query, Google will find an answer that optimizes keywords used within the passage while indexing the web page for further information. This allows a condensed and specific answer to be displayed on the search results page. To make the most of passage indexing, it is important to divide your content into subcategories. Using heading tags to organize your website copy. For longer content, however, it can be useful to have a table of contents. Whilst this keeps web traffic engaged, it also saves time by directly pointing towards the answers they're looking for. So I've written that down, so I had made sure I said that right and explained that right instead of going from the top of my head. So passage indexing is going to be quite key. So for short form content, make sure you have the right headers in place. You basically, what we said, subcategories of what's going on. For longer form content, have a content section at the top, which you can hyperlink and let them jump from one element to another element. I've talked about this before. Long form content is outperforming short form content when it comes to SEO. In terms of keeping them interacted on site for longer and them linking through to other pages and a lower drop-off rate, which naturally leads to a higher conversion rate on site. The other element you want to look at in terms of what's next for SEO is optimization of mobile SEO. The amount of times we do an audit for a client and we look at the core web vitals and the optimization for mobile is like in the red, but the desktop version of the site is like, 70, 80%. You've got to get above 90 to get in green to be clear. So you need to score over 90 in the core web vitals for it to be green. So optimizing your site for mobile is key because a lot of people just assume that everyone's on their laptop searching for stuff. And during the workday, that can happen. But actually, it's this device which you need to be optimizing your search results to more than anything else. This little computer that goes in your pocket, mobile device. So when people are using their phones for a quicker answer to their questions, and that's what SEO is all about, it's answering the questions that people have about your services or products or what is related to your industry. It's important as ever to answer that your website performs for mobile devices. Content on your website needs to have specific information for users to remain engaged both on their desktop and mobile. It is recommended that if you have a separate web page for desktop or mobile, use that these sites are merged. Don't have them separated. We have come across a couple of clients with that. It's particularly important when considering how Google will often dismiss your desktop site and base your SEO ranking solely on the traffic of the mobile compatible site. So basically, Google will discard your desktop ranking in favor of what your mobile ranking is, and that is why you may also drop off from page one. So if you're seeing your rankings drop off, that's because your site isn't optimized for mobile enough, and Google is solely basing your ranking on how well your website is mobile optimized as opposed to tablet or desktop. And it's really, 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 really important to focus on mobile optimizing your website from an SEO point of view. The first thing I mentioned we do is we always do a technical audit on any site when we do SEO. And we look at the desktop and the website performance, and we make recommendations for the developers from a technical perspective to improve the core web vitals from an SEO. Then we do user flow analysis. If we get access to their Google Analytics, to look at how much traffic is coming by device from mobile, tablet, and desktop. And then we look at, right, what are the statistics between desktop and mobile? What is the bounce rate on mobile compared to the bounce rate on desktop? And then we manually look at the site in terms of usability and the content, how easy is it for them to get from one piece of content to another piece of content and vice versa, etc. So you have to do a little bit of a manual process against all these things. So if you haven't already invested into the mobile optimization of your website, you need to now more than ever. Otherwise, you're never going to catch up. You're only going to lose rankings from an SEO perspective, and you're never going to catch up your competition, who, if they're doing what we're doing for our clients, are outperforming their key competitors locally and nationally, because we know what Google wants and requires. And when we talk about what's next for SEO, mobile isn't even next. Mobile is now and in the past. When Google changed it to be mobile first in terms of its algorithm, that was the time to change a website to mobile. But I'm so surprised how many websites we audit and it's just not mobile responsive enough. And it just shows that people neglect it, but you're on your mobile devices all the time. It baffles me more than anything else. As the year goes, the requirements for SEO are going to adapt. There's going to be continuous challenges from alterations from the Google updates, algorithms, by implementing the changes that I've just mentioned there. Look at the basics of SEO. I always say, look at the basics. If you do the basics right, you're doing a better job than most. And that's what is next for SEO, is make sure you do the basics right, because by doing the basics, no matter how many updates come through, if you're conforming with Google's guidelines and doing the best thing and making sure content's mobile optimized, you're creating better, longer form and sub-content in and subcategorizing content, you're being very localized with just specific keywords, you have a good keyword optimized list of localized, nationalized keywords, wider recommended keywords. Look at focusing content on answering questions, not just having content for content's sake. Make sure you have a content strategy in line with your keyword strategy, with your SEO. It's important you get all that done. SEO is going to change radically over the next couple of years. By the end of the year, the next update is going to cause more, as I call it, fluctuation in performance. Indexing has been a big issue since the updated dates since last year for a lot of clients, and a lot of that was tried to be resolved. But again, I also remember some content, some core updates from Google are updates to fix issues that were bugs in the previous update. Google will never admit that. Why would they? But anyone in the SEO community knows that actually something's not been right since the last update, and things need to be fixed, and Google are definitely working on it. And they're like, oh, there's just another update that's come out, and it's basically a fix for what they messed up originally. But they're human like everyone else, and not every update you do is correct. I mean, take Apple, for example. We ought to do an update on our Apple devices because of a security threat that was found. I bet most people didn't know that. I remember reading about that and then checking my phone, and yes, I had an update and it talked about the security threat, and I did that. So make sure you do automatic updates on your mobile phone. So again, these are just examples of companies doing updates around their programs and their tools that need to be done. So hopefully that's been useful. We're going to be covering a lot more on SEO. We've got a couple of special guests lined up for future episodes to come in specifically talk about SEO and the future and what's going on, specifically around obviously the recession. One bit of advice I'd give is if you're an e-commerce company and you're doing SEO, start talking about how you can provide value and more information around your products, because consumers' budgets are squeezed. They won't spend as much, and talk about other things you can do in terms of what value you can add. Warranties, returns, etc., free deliveries. All these kind of things are going to really, really help. Have an FAQs page and answer all the questions they have, so they're more likely to buy from you. It's all about trust. And what SEO does really, really well is it builds trust.